A report has come out revealing that a Toronto Raptors signing is imminent. So we're going to break down that latest report, how it will affect the team moving forward, and how it kind of changes the perspective on some of the moves made at the trade deadline. So we're going to discuss that, including Dennis Schroder speaking out on a recent report that has dropped about his departure from the Toronto Raptors. So lots of stuff to dive into in this video, but before we do, folks, again, over 56% of our viewers are not subscribed to the channel, and we want to keep you up to date with all of the latest Toronto Raptors news. No matter where I am, we want to deliver you the news. Different places, I feel like every single video out here in Panama, but news keeps coming, so we're going to keep delivering it to you guys. But make sure you're subscribed if you haven't hit that subscribe button just yet. But let's dive in the first bit of news. And the first thing we're taking a look at is a Raptors signing imminent. Now, the Raptors just had the craziest trade season in franchise history, in terms of the magnitude of players that end up getting dealt, as well as just the number of trades, the complete overhaul of the roster that we saw from this Toronto Raptors team. But one of the more interesting trades was obviously the acquisition of Kelly Olynyk as well as Ochai Agbaji from the Utah Jazz in exchange for a first-round pick. Now, initially, this had some Toronto Raptors fans a bit confused, a bit questioned, because the 2024 Toronto Tank, it is happening. I forget what I sort of named it. This graphic will pop up here. Yeah, the Toronto Tank 2024. People have been calling for it. People have been wanting the Raptors to lose in order for us to maintain that potential top 6 pick for this season. Because again, if it falls out of that top 6 pick, it's going to the San Antonio Spurs. So Raptors fans were kind of saying, hey, what are we sort of trading away, a first-round selection for? Again, Agbaji is an interesting prospect. He probably in his own right could have been dealt for that first-round pick, and it made sense. But the biggest name that was coming back to the Toronto Raptors in that deal was Kelly Olynyk. And again, a Canadian. Raptors fans are very familiar with his game. He's a guy that has had a really strong career over, playing for the Celtics. The Houston Rockets, he had a ridiculous season for recently. But again, Kelly Olynyk has been a beast over the course of his career, but is not really fitting the timeline of this younger group. And the fact that he's an unrestricted free agent come this offseason had some people questioning whether or not Kelly Olynyk is a center, maybe not the centerpiece, but a key piece in a deal for a first-round pick for a team that is kind of in a little bit of a rebuild, in a little bit of a retool. Does that really make sense? Well, maybe it does now here more at this point, because a recent report has come out from the Toronto Star, from Doug Smith, saying the Raptors did not trade for free agent to be Kelly Olynyk as a rental. Quite the contrary. You can expect an announcement shortly, but maybe in the next couple of weeks. One team official has said this week, but on a contract extension for the Scarborough-born Kelly Olynyk, who was obtained from the Utah Jazz a week ago. Whether it's a straight 2-year deal or 2 years plus an option, the Raptors want to lock up the 32-year-old as quickly as they can. So, again, Agbaji was probably the centerpiece of that deal, was probably the main pick, was the guy most people talked about, was the guy most people were excited about, in terms of that potential package, in terms of what was going on. But Kelly Olynyk getting locked in, being a guy that, again, the Raptors are talking about flexibility, they're talking about these types of things. I mean, Kelly Olynyk is a piece that I think just as a throw-in on a trade, as a key sort of acquisition in one of these deals, that's kind of a steal for the Raptors. Now, if he was going to leave in free agency for nothing, go to another team, then, again, in this season, it's kind of a waste, because we're probably shooting for the bottom, regardless if we're trying to win games, regardless if we have awesome nights like we did against the Pacers last night, even though it did result into a loss, right? Kelly Olynyk, him leaving for nothing, would be kind of just a note in the trade, a piece to fill salary or whatever. But the fact that Kelly Olynyk wants to come back, Masai Ujiri is willing to sacrifice some of his flexibility to retain Kelly Olynyk for the long term, the future of the Canadian, I think that's huge. I think because, again, Kelly Olynyk, right now, sure, he's going to be 33 years old come this off season, and 2-year contract, this is around the time people might start to decline a little bit. It changes for every single player. It changes for all those types of adjustments, but he's a dude that even this season, averaging 8 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 55% from the field, 42% from behind the 3-point line. He's 6'11", shoots 85% from the free throw line. I mean, he's the perfect fit if you want some floor spacing, if you want some creation, want some playmaking at that big man spot. I mean, you have guys like Scotty Barnes, guys like RJ Barrett out there on the roster. This is exactly the type of player you want to have on your team. And given the fact he's not, one of those uber athletes, the DeAndre Jordans of the world, at that big man position where you'd sort of expect him to really decline as he sort of gets over that 30, 31-year-old age. He's a guy that's a floor spacer. He's quick. He's a point guard, sort of grown up through high school and stuff, and then had that growth spurt. So he kind of plays like a guard at that big man position. His game, assuming no injuries, assuming no crazy stuff happens, should age very well. His style of play should age like fine wine coming to the Toronto Raptors. So locking him in for another 2 seasons, sure, it might affect flexibility. It might be, frustrate some Toronto Raptors fans who said, hey, we should have kept that pick or stuff like that. I think this is a very good move for the Toronto Raptors because, again, he's had some monster seasons. He's still playing like he was at the peak of his powers, and he's had some big playoff moments. I don't think the Raptors want to overtly lose, want to go on a multi-year sort of rebuild where the team is just chalk, the team is just losing game after game after game. They want to have some decent players around Scotty Barnes, around an RJ Barrett, around Emmanuel Quickley. So once they sort of blossom the players we know they can be, then this team will be able to sort of take that potential jump, not necessarily to championship contention right away, but back into that playoff picture. And his shooting, his splits are kind of ridiculous. He can hit corner threes, he can hit them for all over the court. He can, gets most of his threes assisted upon, but can sort of create from himself as well, can hit all over the basketball court. So again, I really like the acquisition of Kelly Olynyk. I'm happy that he's likely going to be on this team long term, but let me know what you guys think. Do you think it's a right move to bring back Kelly Olynyk in the comment section down below? But we got another topic to discuss, another sort of thing to bring up as a former Raptor speaks out on recent reports. Now, Dennis Schroder, this was probably the most shocking in the sense that it kind of came out of nowhere. Not that he was traded or not anything like that, but the fact the Raptors just salary dumped him for straight up nothing, for the right to waive Spencer Dinwiddie. That's what they sort of made this trade in order to do, and Dennis Schroder was our starting point guard for a huge chunk of this season, so it was kind of surprising to see that sort of go down, but there was rumblings, there was some chatter that he wasn't happy getting moved to the bench prior to the Emmanuel Quickley trade. The fact that the light at the end of the tunnel for him being the starting player on a playoff contending team, that was sort of taken out of the mix when they acquired Emmanuel Quickley because he was going to be that lead guard after that trade sort of happened. There's rumors that he was frustrated about his potential role, about everything that was going on. Well, basically, and again, your classic Instagram reports, they came out saying Schroder was upset coming off the bench and asked to be moved where he can fulfill being a starter. So that's something that came out from Michael Grange, and Raptor City ended up posting it on Instagram. And obviously, Instagram comments, they seem to get people, NBA players, feels like they're replying to those more so now than tweets and stuff like that. Well, Schroder had a response. He had to say this about Grange's report. Said, "That's just cap. Lying to be relevant." That's what Michael, he's responding to Michael Grange report. Obviously, Rap City sort of reposting it and discussing that. So Dennis Schroder said that it's cap, that he asked to be traded, that he was frustrated coming off the bench, and I get it because, again, I get both sides. I get why he might be frustrated. We got some wind going crazy here now, so I think my audio might be a little bit chalked here now at this point, but I get that Dennis Schroder might be frustrated coming off the bench, but he didn't seem like a guy that was a locker room cancer, going to be asking for moves, asking for deals, or anything like that. But, he's a guy that he was a professional for the Toronto Raptors, and, I like that he's kind of responding to Rap City. He's a guy that I really liked as a Toronto Raptor. Again, didn't fit our timeline, took away some of the guard spots, some of the guard touches we need for guys like Quickley, RJ, Scotty, these types of players. But, I like that he sort of responded. Rap City came out with a corny comment back saying, "You sold my parlay yesterday. I need you to have 5 assists. You got 3, bro." But people got to stop talking about sports betting. People got to stop that sort of madness. But, folks, you guys are the best to make this far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Lots of news going to be coming, so we want to keep you up to date. Obviously, Scotty's going to be an all-star weekend this weekend. But, folks, I'm signing out. Cheers.